How's this? Does that work? Does that work? Can you guys hear this? I swear, my audio, I get it fixed and then I don't get it fixed. Hey! So that works? Okay, he hears that. Yes. Okay. So we'll just keep those settings where they are. Okay. Pumpkins look great. Thank you. The friendly additions to the staff tonight, because this is a very spooky. Let's see. A very spooky edition of streaming on the ZBrush Live. I really love Halloween, so I thought we'd have some fun tonight and tell ghost stories and all sorts of stuff. That's it, just ghost stories. South Dakota. Oh, it's already so cold. How are you doing? Okay, so actually, what I wanted to do was is this spooky enough for everyone? So I thought we could do a Halloween thing tonight. Yes, a Halloween theme. Let's make sure all the pumpkins can get in there and see each other very nicely. There we go. There we go. Oh, the grumpy one. You know, it's always the grumpy one that's getting into trouble. Oh, thank you so much. Will the drawing video be out by the end of the year? It will be out by the end of the year. Hopefully. I'm still hoping to have it out by CTN, which is at the end of next month. So hopefully we're getting there. Okay, so I thought what we could do is a Halloween sculpt. And we could either do, let's just do a quick vote while I start blocking in some of the stuff. I was thinking about either doing the Bride of Frankenstein, or Morticia Addams, who I love, from the Addams family. If I have to explain who Morticia Addams is, that's just, I'm just dying inside. But a spooky night will be had. So I've been having a lot of fun with my Mobile Studio Pro, and I've kind of hiya, oh yeah, hiya. So I've been utilizing a lot of this Sculptress Pro just to block in things really quickly. As I jump around to like try to play scary music for you guys. That's also royalty free. Yes, the spookiness. It's very, very spooky. Addams Family, Bride of Frankenstein, do creepy... Who's Creepy Susie? I'm already... The funny thing is I am terrified. Like, I love horror movies, and I love Halloween, but I am such a pansy. Like I get really scared and like I hide under covers and anyways, some Halloween electro swing. Oh. So yes, Marco, I'm just using my regular setup, my computer, my desktop and stuff. But what I've been doing is I've been using my Mobile Studio Pro and taking it to like coffee shops and like to work and just kind of just quickly roughing things out. But it's been pretty fun to just kind of like, okay, well, this I've never really used. The funny thing is, like, I've never used Sculpt Pro because it just hasn't really felt like it fit into my workflow very much. So I just decided to like, okay, well, the Mobile Studio Pro is more for like sketching in general, anyways. So what if I just use it as for sketching in general? Yeah, the price is definitely is high is high, but it is really nice. Like I feel like I have finally got like a good setup for using ZBrush because like ZBrush I use just so many hotkeys. I'm constantly zooming in, I'm smoothing, I'm adjusting my brush size, I'm panning around. And to like try to find something that to a system where I could feel comfortable without a keyboard because that's like real the purpose. I've been using my iPad Pro for so long that like I just need a real mobile experience to me does not involve a keyboard. In ZBrush to have that work was just it was kind of hard. So it took a little while before I kind of figured out my perfect system for me. But like once I kind of figured it out, it's been so nice. Like I was pretty hesitant to like decide, okay, am I going to keep this forever type of thing, or is it a test and return type of thing? Um, but I've really become to love it. Let's see. Hello, Matt. How's it hanging? I love your 3D printing course. If you've been doing it, oh, hey, yeah. Thank you so much. You've been doing it on your Studio Pro. Yes, you're awesome. Elvira, that's awesome. I she was a little bit before my time, so I always see like Morticia when I think of her. So maybe I do Morticia tonight, and that would be fun. I like Morticia. I just kind of like Morticia, but Bride of Frankenstein could be fun. I love her eyes. So we're gonna look at some reference real quick. So I just grabbed these really fast off the interwebs, and we're just gonna look at these. And none of these pictures are mine, but I love her eyes. I don't know what her eyes just have got that great expression to them. For jewelry and also rhino. Oh, sweet. That's awesome. I've always wanted to get into casting jewelry. Um, I have not had a chance to use Blender at all, actually. But I love her eyes. And then Morticia, I just have always loved the sass, like the morbid sassiness that she has. So I think I might just go with like Morticia tonight, just because I think she's got some fun personality that we could play around with. And so maybe we'll just do with that. Okay. Anyways, this is a great reference. This is called PureRef, by the way. I use this. I recommend this to everyone that I work with and everyone. But it's just basically an infinite reference artboard that you can just click and drag things right on. It's pretty awesome. How did the school nerd characters come out? Any updates? I'm still working on that. He's coming along just fine and dandy. Just getting my references set up for myself. But I'll continue on them, and I've got the coffee girl. She's probably into a good spot right now. I want to add a little bit of texture to her, to her dress and her hat, and just like a little bit fine tune the hair. But as far as like the character itself, I felt like she was in a pretty good spot. Have I ever done stylized props, environments, creating them? Any tips? I do not have a Form 2. I only have a Prusa, which is an FDM printer. I've printed on a form. Well, I guess I've never actually printed myself on a form printer. I've only printed on either like really expensive SLAs, like multiple $100,000 printers, but I've never myself messed around with any of the form printers. Though I've had some things printed on them. They've always turned out really great, but I've just never had a chance to mess around with it myself. Mm-hmm. I'm going to make this some blocky poop real for a little while. So this is kind of the fun. I mean, I never really liked doing anything like this. I don't really like working in Dynamesh too much. For those of you who have taken my tutorials, but for some reason, this has just been a lot of fun. So yeah, the props. So I do props all the time, especially with character design. Most of the characters have some sort of props or something, but I've never done full environments. I've primarily been a character artist since the beginning of my career, which is weird to say because most people say that you want to be a character artist, do something else, because no one's ever a character artist when they start off. But I kind of lucked in. I don't know if I lucked into it or if I worked really hard or something, but mainly I've always just done characters. Even from, the first job that I did was probably the most diverse in the things that I was working on, because I was doing like UI, animals, backgrounds, but we didn't do a whole lot of 3D games. We did mainly 2D games or 2.5D games. It was nothing like super high end. But as far as advice, I think just figuring out like proportions and varying, so you're staying away from things that are like the same thicknesses. Understanding the original concept. Like if you're doing like a stylized gun, instead of just modeling the gun and making one part really big, trying to understand where you can emphasize detail and where you can subtract detail. And it's kind of the same with like anatomy and stylized anatomy, is that you're playing a game of taking away detail and adding detail to parts that need it, and kind of designing it. So, hard edges, accentuate hard edges, make sure things aren't too soft. Things like that. What school did I learn ZBrush in? So I went to a school up in Seattle that was awesome. It's not around anymore. It was called the 3D Training Academy. And the cool thing about it is that they just taught 3D modeling from 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, and nothing else. And they would bring in all these cool teachers from local studios in Seattle. Like they brought in a guy from Valve once. They brought in a guy from Zombie Studios that was up there, another local game studio. Starting to think about silhouettes here just a little bit. Let's see. More questions. I'm new to ZBrush. Would you recommend the Surface, or is a studio mainly for advanced? So they just announced that new Surface, and to be honest, I don't know too much about the internals to know how it would handle ZBrush. I know that, as long as it's like a good quad core processor and you have, I would recommend 8 gigs of RAM minimum, but at least, if you can get up to 16 gigs, that would be nice. I do know that it doesn't have a video card in it, so there's not that like ZBrush uses a video card, but still just for 3D purposes. It is nice because it's a little bit more mobile. It's way less expensive, which is also a big thing. But I do know that when I did, because I had a Studio 3 for a while. I still do, I guess. I just don't use it. My biggest problem with it wasn't that it couldn't do ZBrush. It was that, one, there was no buttons on it. It was hard to figure out a hotkey system with just floating buttons. And I was always fighting the tech for the pen, because the pen just wouldn't. It would work. When it worked, it was awesome. But when it didn't work, it was frustrating as all hell. But that was like the Surface Pro 3, so I'm sure it's gotten better since then. I would at least hope it would. My logo is covering the model. Thank you. Oh, I was supposed to take that away. Let's see. Hold on a second here. Aha. Thank you. I have to I have to admit, I mustache you a question. How was your day? Ha! It was good. Ha ha ha. My mustache is a thing that I love and hate. Don't worry. So let's start with some ghost stories. We've been into this a little bit. Oh, you left it on a plane. Oh, that's the worst. That's really sad. Um, anyways, ghost stories. Ghost stories. So I love ghost stories. The things that you should know about me is that I believe in ghosts. Um, yeah, some spooky stories. Yes, you've been reading a lot. Oh my gosh, no. So I love ghost stories. I love listening to ghosts, story podcasts. I used to make horror movies. I just have always really loved, even though they terrify me, ghost stories. Let's just cheer up. Oops. So what? Oh, whoops. Come on, come on, little guy. Oh, try that again. Where was I? Anyways, so I've always loved ghost stories, and for some reason they've always captivated me. So, anyways, we had this idea a while back, like my brothers and brother-in-law, that we wanted to do like a local ghost hunting thing, just around Utah. I'm from Utah. What whatever happened to Eliza Lamb? What? I don't know who Eliza Lamb is. Eliza Lamb? I don't know who that is. It's 3D ghost artifacting. This may look a little weird for a little bit, but just give it some time. Anyways, so we decided to do some like local ghost investigating. And we were going to do a little podcast, and it was going to be a part of like this podcast that I wanted to do about ghost investigation and conspiracy theories. And we were up at this place called Midway that's kind of out of the main. I don't know if anyone knows like Utah at all, but it's kind of out in the mountains, up in the hills, kind of away from everyone. And actually, so we were up at this up at our family's cabin that's up there, and there's this little bed and breakfast kind of inn that's up there that I've heard is haunted. Like they have, some spooky things going on there. Good night from Brazil here. When you're going to do retopology for for project all, could you explain it to me? To this day, I don't understand things well. Look up hippiedrome.com, and all will be known to you. Anyways, so there's this place. It's called the Homestead, which is already terrifying, right? And I had no idea like what kind of stuff was going on, or if anything was going on. I had just heard, oh yeah, it's kind of haunted. Someone said that, oh yeah, it's haunted. So we were in the area and we were kind of going by, and so we stopped and we went over and walked up to the front desk guy and said, "Hey, do you know anything about this place being haunted?" And he gets really quiet and he kind of looks around and then he goes, "Yeah." And I wasn't expecting that. I wasn't expecting him to like, I thought he was going to like kind of brush us off, or like, he's like, "Yeah." And I'm like, "Whoa, okay. So what kind of stuff is going on? Like, what kind of stuff have you experienced?" And he's like, "Well, we have one room in particular that guests check into and then check out of almost immediately, all the time." And I was like, "Well, what do you mean?" He's like, "Yeah, so like people will go and we'll check them into the room, and then within a few hours I'll get a call and they will say, 'Hey, can we change rooms? I don't know what it is about this room, but it feels like something's watching us.'" I'm like, "What?" And he's like, "Yeah, and it happens all the time. Like, it's not just like every once in a while, but like all the time people check out of that room within 2 or 3 hours of being in it." I'm like, "Whoa, well, that's kind of creepy." And then he's like, "Yeah, the weird thing is, from that same room, when nobody's staying in it, I'll get calls from it. And no one will be on the other end of the line. It'll be like, 'Wait a second, isn't that room empty?' And then all of a sudden, it will just be like weird static, but he'll have a call from this empty room, the same room that people are checking out of." So he was like, "Whoa, okay." And then, like, as we're talking to this guy, because it's me, my brother, and my brother-in-law that are talking to him, I'm noticing the other workers, and they are starting to talk, and they're like, "Oh yeah, these guys are talking about like the weird stuff that's happening here." And then I just mentioned something like, "Yeah, what do you mean?" He's like, "Yeah, because there's a restaurant there too, and the waitresses are like, everyone has a weird story about something happening to them." I'm like, "Whoa!" So it's just crazy that like this little. I mean, when the thing is, we've been there. Like, I think we've even stayed overnight, and it's just interesting. And the funny thing about doing all this, and I guess there's not really any like boo. Oh yeah, I've got ghost stories for the whole night. Don't worry, and watch up. I don't know if it's Filipinas superstitious. Oh, nice. Believes spirits exist among the living. Google duende. Same thing on Guam. It's called Tuataumana. I'm gonna have to ask my sister-in-law. My sister-in-law actually is from, um, she's from the Philippines, and my brother lived in the Philippines for a couple of years too. And I've actually heard. I just actually watched. There's a good. There's a good. I mean, it's okay. It's too dark. It's filmed too dark. But there's a decent thing on Netflix called Haunted. Last season was good, except for the last episode when you're like, "Wait a second, what?" But they had a Filipina tell her story about how like her house was haunted and how it was like affecting them. But they talked a little bit about the superstition of the culture of just you know how it's not talked about, because if you talk about it, then it'll amplify it or something. And I know this is looking like an alien right now, but just calm down, Greg. Ugh, Greg. Anyways, okay, so to continue the ghost stories that it was interesting as we were going around, and we did this to a couple places where we're like, so do you have any experience yourself? And I always wanted to talk to people that had experience themselves, because that was always like the best stories. You could feel, because when you talk to someone, instead of like they're telling someone else's story like I am doing to you, it just feels more real. Like you can connect with that a little bit deeper. My fave mysteries, streamers of UFOs. Yes. Well, the boobs will come. Just calm down. Goodness gracious. Anyways, so it was interesting to see, like, of all the people that we would talk to, because we talked to a few people, but everyone seemed to have, everyone all over the world, like everyone that we've talked to, which is all over Utah, but they all seem to have different stories. Like everyone has some experience. And like, even so, my dad is a very kind of a quiet guy about this. He's the guy who's the non-believer, but he even has stories of like things that he doesn't understand. And to the point when we were talking about this, he's like, "Oh yeah, ask your aunt about the family ghost, because apparently there's a family ghost that's been around for a long time, apparently, and so much that this ghost has a name, and her name is Polly." I'm gonna get like chills talking about this. This is great. House on Haunted Hill, or House, The Haunting of Hill House is really good. That was awesome. My wife is a doctor. She's seen a lot at hospitals. Many times, old people or kids. Ugh, that is terrifying. Anyway, oh gosh. So, to where was I? What was I talking about? Anyway, the family ghost. Yes, that's what it was. So he was saying, yeah, ask your aunt about the family ghost. And I'm like, what? Family ghost? And then I asked my cousin, who I'm really good friends with. And, I'm really close with my cousins. Like, my cousins and my brothers are kind of like my best friends in the world. And so I'm really close to them. And I've been close to them pretty much my whole life. But I've never heard any talk of the family ghost from this cousin. And so I asked him about it, and he's like, "Oh yeah, Polly." And I'm like, "What? What are you talking about, Polly?" He's like, "Oh yeah, Polly, And he's like, there was just weird things that would happen around his house, like the cabinets were open up, or like in the middle of the night the door would open, or she'd feel breathing. Oh gosh, I can't even talk about this because it scares me. My aunt would feel like breathing next to her pillow, like on the opposite side from her husband. And she was always really comforted. It wasn't like a scary presence to her ever. But she's like, "Oh yeah, that's just Polly. Oh, that's just Polly." So like, if something would fall off the counter randomly, or a cabinet would open or it would close, and it was just understood that that was Polly, and they don't know what the connection is. She thinks it's one of the ancestors, because we're in Utah, and our only claim to fame is pioneers for some reason. Um, as I like stop to think about how I want to do this nose. Anyways, we're gonna just flatten out that nose just a little bit. Yeah, so she's got all my aunt specifically. Apparently, it's mostly haunted my aunt and her family, but they've had many experiences over decades with this spirit. Philippine mythical creatures. Oh, yes, that looks fun. Yeah, at least Polly isn't the aggressive ghost. Ugh. Anyways, I'm gonna freak myself out by talking about Polly. Oh my gosh, am I supposed to click on that link? Let's just do a quick link. Oh my gosh. That horse looks cool though. Anyways, I don't have any specific stories. Me myself, I don't know if I can say that I've ever had like a personal um, paranormal activity experience myself. I've heard a lot of stories of people that have. I do remember like a UFO story that I experienced that I will share with you now. I don't know. Bad luck. So, this is when I was younger. I was probably, I'm guessing 11 or 12, but I remember it still really pretty well. And I don't tell people my stories very often, so bear with me. But I remember we were coming home from a movie. This was late, and this is like back. Utah is not was not always the bustling city that it is today. It used to be really small, and it's still pretty small compared to most standards. But it was still really small, and I remember there weren't really street lights around at the time, and I just remember we were driving home, and I was with my brothers. My eldest brother was driving, and all of a sudden we were kind of going towards the mountains. Ah, Roswell. Um, we were going towards our house, towards the mountains, and as we got closer, all of a sudden we see this like, and all I can think of, and when I saw it, I was like, what is that? It looks like a glow in the dark frisbee that's being remote controlled. And in the sky was like this giant, probably like moon size glowing disc in the sky. And I just remember like thinking, what is that? And my brothers are like, "Whoa." And I think I even remember saying like, there's a flying UFO, or no, not UFO, but there's a flying frisbee in the sky. And my brothers looked and they saw it and they're like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa." And they're like freaking out. And like, "We've got to follow it. We've got to follow it." And we like drove a path so we could watch it. And we watched it for probably a minute or two, where it was flying and it would go across the sky and it would stop and then it would go slowly the other way. And this is why I think I thought it was like a remote controlled thing, because it was moving so intently, like someone was controlling it. But I just remember this like glow in the dark, this bright orb in the sky, not orb, but like disc in the sky. And I remember seeing that and just thinking, this is weird. And I don't think I knew it was a UFO until after the fact, when my brothers were talking about it and like, we totally just saw like, what was that, you know? So I keep getting sidetracked by doing stuff. Anyways, that was my UFO story. Mm. Hey, Quentin, how's it going, man? Doing well. Japanese ghosts are so polite, they point that they'll knock on your door first before entering. To the point that they'll knock on the door first before. um, I don't like that. They'll knock on your door first. Anyways, eventually I will take this off of um, kind of ruffiness mode. As Morticia's looking a little bit like Michael Jackson. We'll get there. We'll get there. Gotta go through the Valley of the Suck first. Anyways, what other ghost stories? My aunt. I have one that I don't like talking about because I just don't like talking about it. Um, because it scares me. I think Z Modeler will get to the point where people who are comfortable with Maya can use it comfortably also. Yeah, I think I am using Z Modeler more than I've ever used Maya anymore. I think I've crossed that point where I'm more comfortable. I mean, it's not I'm not building final topology in it because of some limitations that ZBrush has with dealing with tries. You know, if ZBrush could just let me cut the topology that I want and kind of fix it the way that you can in Maya, then I think it would bridge that gap. But it's getting there. It's getting there. Oh, the story that I didn't want to tell. Had a cousin who scared me with the Ouija. It's a Ouija board story. Don't say that. There's nothing behind me. Just the pumpkins here. Gosh. I okay. So the looks like we're all gonna end up scared tonight. We are. Um, so the story that I don't like to tell is a Ouija board story, and I don't like to tell it because like that stuff I don't like to mess with. That's I love horror movies, but there's some horror movies I still won't do. Like I've never watched um what is it? The Exorcist. I've still never watched that. I don't think I will. Um I try to stay away from those. But anyways, the story that I have again, it's not mine. It's a hearsay story, so take it for what it is. Ah, don't say that. There is someone. Is he see? Does the does the Ouija board open gates? I don't know what it does. I just don't like playing with it. Luigi's Mansion 3 does look fun. Um, Bat like wings to fly into the night in search of its victims. Oh boy. Sodax, that's terrifying. Anyways, maybe I don't tell this story. I'm already getting scared. I'm already getting scared just talking about this stuff. We still have like another 2 hours. Anyways, um, anyways, so the story is that my aunt, different aunt, was at like a girls' party, like a girls' slumber party, and at the party, one of the girls brought out a Ouija board. They thought it'd be fun, and they started playing with it, and they thought it was funny, and then of course it's not going to be funny. Let me just tell you that it's not going to be funny in the end. Ah. Um, so they start saying, okay, so they ask, are you here? And the the board says yes, and it says where are you? And the board says in the basement, which is so horrible. I'm in the basement right now. This is the worst. why am I telling this story? And so she the girls, like, okay, let's go into the basement, and they go, and the lights don't work because it's an old house. This is a long time ago, by the way. Like, my aunt is quite a bit older than me, so obviously the story is going to be it's going to be old. Um, but they can't. There's no light. I mean, I guess down in the basement they had one of those click lights, and so they had to go get a candle, and like a candle, just for reference sake, is like, I mean, a candle lights up a substantial amount of area. Um, so they go get a candle. This is so dumb. We should stop talking about this right now. I'm not happy about this. Just remember to run upstairs. I will. Um, and so they get a candle, and they go to the. This is the worst music that we're listening to as well. Oh gosh. So they get the candle, and they open the door, and they stick the candle in to try to see what's in the basement, or if there's anything in the basement. And she said, and this is where it gives me like chills. Ugh, I don't know why I'm telling you this. And so they put it in, and they said all she could see, she couldn't see even the candle itself. All they could see is the flame from the candle. And she said that freaked her out so much they hurried and slammed the door and put the thing away. And that was the end of it. And I'm like, ugh, I never want to play with that. Anyways, now that we're all nice and happy, uh, yes, you would see me run so fast too. Yeah. There's so when that movie The Conjuring came out, which is, I think, one of the scariest movies of all times. It terrified me because it was very real, and so it was really scary. I mean, the movie is very well done. It's very scary, but I had to like investigate that for myself to figure out, like, to know what was being dramatized, and because it's based on real events. And so and so I started, like, the next day after watching it. I um, went to the Google, because that's what you do, is you find truth in the internets. And I started looking up, like, Ed and Lorraine Warren. And first I found out about the doll, and the doll's not scary. They've tried to make this big thing about the doll. The doll really has nothing to do with anything, and is not. I mean, the real story is really is scary. Like, let's not. The real story of the doll is scary, and the fact that, like, they invited some demon into this thing, and it was trying to trick them to play with it to give it power, type of thing. And it would say that it would end up writing letters to people, or to them. Ugh, that is scary. Never mind. That's pretty dark there, Matt. I know. Should I turn on the lights in here? Jeez Louise. Karen Black in Burnt Offerings. Eek. I don't know what that is either. Anyways, The Conjuring is a scary movie in itself. But then you go and you start doing the research and you see some of the actual footage that they caught. You know, because they were investigating that house, I think, for like a solid month. Before, they claim that there was some pretty big, crazy crap that happened. Cool. I'm freaking myself out. Anyways, you look that up and you find some really weird stuff. So don't look that up. Do not ever read Amityville Horror while listening to Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon. Yes, don't do that. All of a sudden I'm wanting to turn on like all my lights. Um, we're going to do one of these. Okay, we need to talk about something lighthearted for a second. Because obviously I've just terrified myself. No one else, just me. Uh, so, as for some reason, I've decided like this year I've wanted to watch all of the Friday the 13th movies. I've never watched them all. I've only watched like the first one. And I wanted to do it simply because I wanted to do it. Oh my gosh. Anyways, um, so sorry guys. So I wanted to watch all the Friday the 13th movies. I think I'm just going to start freshy sculpt on this. So I just did a ZBrush and now I'm just going to kind of redefine some of these features in a little bit cleaner fashion. Anyways, so I started watching them all, and like the Friday the 13th movies are cinematically are so interesting to me because the first one is really good and it has a story and kind of lore to it, and it's interesting because now, not to spoil it for you guys, but I believe there are 10 Friday the 13th movies. Actually, there's only 8 Friday the 13th movies, but there are 10 Jason movies. And someone can correct me if I'm wrong about that, because I might be wrong about that. Anyways, so the first one is really great, and it's this very subtle story about a kid who died, at a summer camp because the counselors were off having sex and doing drugs. So what do I think about The clown unions are meeting. How's that not scary? Gross. So, what do you think about the story about the one guy who had information about an engine in Area 51? I know a few of those stories. I think they're very interesting. I think the 0 point energy stuff is very interesting. Anyways, so to continue the story about Jason. So the first one, they've got this lore, this kid that dies, and now the whole movie, you're getting Kevin Bacon's in it, so you know it's good. He's in the first. He's in the first one. So, all these campers are dying because they're getting ready to start another summer camp, and they're trying to, but their hormones are flowing, and they start having sex and doing drugs and drinking drugs, um and all of a sudden Kevin Bacon dies, and you're like, oh no, this thing's for real. And so it's a little concerning. The lore is growing, and you're thinking, oh no, this kid Jason is back to life. And then it ends up Jason's not even in it. He's not even in the first one, right? He is just um, it's just his mom. It turns out to be his mom pretending to be Jason, like she's listening to Jason and acting out as such. And so Jason in the first one is actually just Jason's mom, and he she was trying to take revenge because he died on his birthday, which was Friday the 13th. Who knows when that Friday the 13th is? 11 Friday the 13th movies? 11? Okay, so this is what I've got. You've got Jason or Friday the 13th 1 through 8. And then it goes, because then it kind of starts deriving. After it's 7, and then it's 8, which is Jason Does Manhattan. And then it goes to Jason Goes to Hell, which is number 9. And then number 10 is Jason versus Freddy. So what am I missing? There's got to be, which one am I missing? Is there another one like Jason 2.0? You stopped at Manhattan. That's number 8. How did you get Oh, Jason X. Okay. It gets really ridiculous. So the first one is really good because it's this scary thing that turns out to be the mom, but it's still scary because she's crazy and she's still like killing people. And then the second one was good ish. It was an okay one, and they're trying to like make Jason real. So in the second one, and the weird thing is like none of them follow the previous movie. Like the end of the first movie, Jason comes out of the water as the little boy and pulls the girl into the water. Like the victim into the water, and they just kind of forget about that. That, oh yeah, we showed that he's still a little boy, which I think could be really scary. But it was before any of the Grudge or the Ring or anything like that, where you realize that the scariest ghosts are actually kids. And so so you've got that one, and then which my one of my favorites so far is Jason 3. Oh, excuse me. Is Jason 3. There is a Jason in outer space. That's right. Jason in outer space. Oh my gosh. I remember I've seen the Jason in outer space. It's so dumb. They're like, what can we do? We've done Jason Does Manhattan, and Jason gets a facial, and like, what can we do now? I got it. Let's send him to space because that makes sense. Anyways, Jason 3. This is why I think Jason 3 is one of the best horror movies ever made, because it was like in the prime of when really bad, like 3D movies were just made. Um and it was in film. You could watch Jason 3 in 3D. So they do all these dumb things like, whoa. And they just always find a reason to stick something at the camera like this over and over, like throughout. And it's just this, Jason gets stabbed or he stabs someone, and the reveal is like, ring. Or there's a yo yo that's. Um, Jason, that would be a fun sculpt. It's just a Jason sculpt. Anyways, so like he's it's just like the dumbest premise. And this is Jason 3. He doesn't get the mask until Jason 3. So you've developed this franchise, which is really interesting to me because they've like, third year, then they come up with this iconic mask, and I can't even remember. I think he just like grabs it off something. But he doesn't get the Jason iconic mask until Jason 3, which I think is really interesting for something that's become such a cult icon. It's like, there's no. Are there any movies that have gotten? Besides like Jurassic Park, it's like having Jurassic Park not have a lead dinosaur face until what? Movie 4, 3? Oh, I'm gonna go check on something real quick. Be right back. Haha! No, sorry. So I was just making sure that my wife was. She's been putting down the kids, and I was making sure that like chaos was not. That light is now super bright. Hold on. Okay, we're back. It's a little bright. Oh, mainly because that is really bright. Alive. Okay. Anyways, about Jason 3. I thought it was like the dumbest third movie that you could have for any franchise. I mean, there none of them are really good. I think my favorite, so besides the number one, probably Jason 4, Friday the 13th 4 is probably the next best. Hmm. You can hear them squealing. That's my wife and my mother-in-law. They're out there talking. That's what I heard. Anyways, Jason 4 is really nice because it's like, I think Jason dies. Is that their Friday the 13th? Jason dies. Yeah, the Friday the 14th is Jason dies, and it's cool because it's got Corey Feldman in it, which he's in one of my other favorite horror movies. As I'm just like, um, we lost our music, our scary music. Where'd it go? So Jason dies in that one, but it's really it leads to the idea of like he broke something in someone else who will now take the mantle of Jason. And they kind of play off that. The one of the bad things is they just cannot keep the same actors and even in any of the sequels. Like there's no return actors anywhere. Oh, I missed your comment. Um, let's see if I can get it. Nope. Hey man, looking at your past streams, seems like you can make characters super fast. How fast does it take you to model a full one? I mean, this is like it takes it takes time. None of my characters are fast. I think I'm actually a fairly slow modeler, like a character guy. I like to take my time. So don't be fooled. um, but it takes a couple weeks at least for a full like character. Anyways, Jason 4 is really good because it's well done. You know, Corey Feldman is in it, which makes it all of a sudden a lot better. And they played up the lore a little bit more with it. After like Jason 5 is like Jason Rebirth. And they kind of just forget. They forget all this stuff, which I thought made Jason that could make Jason scary, which was like the lore of Friday the 13th in itself. And it kind of just like throws that away. They don't actually even. What software is streaming and recording you? It's XSplit Broadcaster. I talk about scary stories. Um, so what was I talking about? I'm gonna try to push this design just a little bit more now that we've got some things blocked in. But yeah, by Friday the 13th 5, they don't care what day it is. um, they don't necessarily care about anything anymore other than, okay, well, we have to have teenagers that die, and we have to have, you know, there's, it just kind of falls into some really dumb, like B movie horror tropes. Let's get this out of my beard so it's not wrinkly. Hello, August. So, I'm just finishing Friday the 13th 7. And I'll start Friday the 13th 8 tomorrow. And then I'll probably make my way through Jason Goes to Hell and then Jason 10, right? And then what is after that? Jason Goes to Space. Isn't Jason 10 Jason Goes to Space? Like, I think that's. And I think the funny thing about like the Jason Goes to Space, I think that is just was the answer to there was aliens around that same time. I think she needs eyebrows. Corey was in part 4. Yeah, Corey Feldman was in part 4, which is great. I couldn't believe the trailer. Didn't know who founded it. It was in outer space. So that was my goal this Halloween, was to watch all of the original or all of the Friday the 13th movies. It has been a trial. I have watched some really good ones. Also, I make my wife watch one scary movie. She cannot do scary movies. She's a lightweight when it comes to the horror. So, but once a year to appease me, I find one horror movie that I would say, okay, this one you could get through. And we've done, let's see, we did 10 Cloverfield Lane, which isn't a horror movie. Let me get that out there that 10 Cloverfield Lane is not a horror movie, it's a thriller, but that nearly broke her. So that shows like the level of horror that she could do. And so I've kind of pulled it back a little bit. You know, last year we did Get Out, which was a good one. She liked that. She wasn't too scared of Get Out. It was mainly like just the creepy vibe of John Goodman in Cloverfield Lane. We did, what is it? Something in Tucker versus Evil, which is a good one. I'm modeling right now and spent the day refining my characters around. I'm tired. What city are you in? I am in Salt Lake of Utah. But so this year, I'm like, okay, we're going to push it a little bit more. We've done Zombieland. We've done some of the classic ones that she just needed to watch. This year, I'm going to push it to one of my favorites, which is an actual horror movie. Because it's so good. I'm making her watch Cabin in the Woods. I want to ask you, does your college matter when you're asking for a third job? No, it does not. All that matters is your portfolio. If you have an awesome portfolio, school doesn't matter. I didn't go to a university. I didn't go to a traditional school, and nobody has ever asked me in an interview where I went to school or what my degree was. Ooh, SoCal, nice. I know this is a Pixelogic stream, but do I use Substance? I do. I don't use it very much. I used to do it a little bit when I was doing more on Fortnite when we were doing. So I worked on. Whoops. I worked on some of the stuff for Fortnite, and we would do the modeling and then the texturing ourselves. But we were just kind of helping out while we were trying to transition into to continue with our game. We were just helping out some of the first onslaught of craziness when Fortnite was blowing up. Right now these eyes are still feeling a bit bulgy. Let's turn off these. And then we're going to go back to some ghost stories for a little bit. Let's actually do a quick paint of these eyes too. Aha, maybe we just keep it like this. Okay, let's think of another good story, another good ghost story. So let's think. There's so many good things to talk about. That's the look. I'm thinking of a ghost story right now. We're gonna do this. But I just wanted to get those eyes into place. Let's just get those eyes into place, and then we can get into the ghost stories. Okay, so let's think of another one. Ooh, let's see here. I missed a comment. I have seen The Haunting of Hill House. I loved it. I thought it was really well. Skinwalkers are apparently these types of people that turn into possessed disguise. Wendigos, yes. I think Wendigos and Skinwalkers are in fact the same thing, from what I understand at least. The Skinwalkers. I mean, I think I talk about the Skinwalkers every week for people who've come back to this. But yes, I talk about the Skinwalkers because Skinwalker Ranch is fairly close to where I live. It's this famous paranormal hot spot. Sorry, I'm just kind of focusing on the design a little bit for just a second. We'll get back into it. When I was in Spain, this is a story about Spain, that there were, we lived in these apartments. So I was a missionary for my church, and so we lived all over different parts of Spain for 2 years, which was really cool. But I was talking to some other elders who apparently had like a paranormal encounter where they had gone to like a flea market because they needed some chairs or something, and they bought just one chair. I guess they only needed one chair apparently, And they all of a sudden in their apartment just started experiencing really weird things, like, the lights in the middle of the night would turn on, or they'd come home after being out all day and chairs would be flipped upside down. Oh, I'm missing comment. There's something called stairs to heaven or something like that. Oh gosh, Lucy. Artabella went to Salt Lake. Yes. Do you just go there to stop them? Yeah, I just go there to stop them. Stairs to heaven. Have you guys heard about there are these mysterious stairs that have appeared in many places worldwide, and no one knows why or where they go, but everyone says they get a creepy feeling. Oh, I've not heard the stairs. I need to look up these stairs to heaven because that sounds terrifying. Gah. Stairs to heaven. There, I have heard of like the. It's not stairs to heaven, but it's the elevator to hell. Have you heard of those? Anyways, I'm gonna tell the story about the elevator to hell after. Let me finish the story. So like the this so they'd come home and things would be upside down. So they have like scriptures that would be like flipped over and like thrown across the room or something, and things would just happen all the time, like weird stuff. And so, you know, they decided like they needed to say a prayer, and still weird stuff would continue to happen until they got rid of like they just took the chair because they thought it was the chair and they just threw it away. They went and they put it outside, and then everything just seemed to stop after that. Good thing there's no campfire. I know. We were I actually just took my sons on a camping trip. We just went out and we stayed kind of in the middle of nowhere. We rented a camper, and it was something my wife found. And my kids, my oldest is 8, and he's like me. My oldest is basically just a younger, more talented me. And we went and they asked, we were around the campfire and they're like, Dad, tell us a scary story. Tell us a scary story. And I'm like, okay. And so I tell the story of the girl with the green ribbon. I don't know if you guys know that story. But since this is the Halloween episode, we're going to tell it today. So the story of the green ribbon, and this is like a very kid appropriate, because I've got my 8-year-old, 6-year-old, or 5-year-old, almost 6, and then my 3-year-old. And so the story is, one day this man meets this beautiful woman and he falls in love with her, and she has a green ribbon around her neck. And they fall in love, and so he asks her about the green ribbon, and she says, one day I'll tell you. I'll tell you about it. I'll tell you why I wear it. But every day they see each other, she's always wearing the green ribbon. And they get married, and he says, okay, cool. Will you tell me about the green ribbon now? And she says, no. I'll tell you. I'll tell you when, later. I'll tell you eventually. And so they get married, and they get old, and she gets sick, and she's on her bed, and she says, okay, I'll tell you about the green ribbon. And so he says, okay. And she says, okay, unwrap, take the green ribbon off my neck. And so slowly he unwraps the green ribbon from her neck, and her head falls off. And my kids lost it. They started, Dad, why would you tell us this story? That was scary. And I laughed off like, guys, her head fell off. It's a story. It's a scary story. But they were. But I'm really glad I did that instead of the guy with the hook for a hand. When we're camping in an RV trailer. Anyways, okay. So the story, yeah, it's still screaming. Okay, so the story of the elevator to hell is this, and this is lore again. Um, the elevator to hell is you get in an elevator that has more than 6 floors. And oh gosh, I don't know why this scares me already. Like I'm just talking about it. My Paranorman mug for this evening. I think that's appropriate. Okay, so the lore of the elevator to hell. After stream, let's all do the elevator to hell challenge. Oh gosh, don't do it. Now I may get this wrong, but I believe the elevator to hell challenge is that in an elevator with more than 6 stories, what you do is you get in the elevator and you go from 6 to the bottom 3 times. So you go up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down. And then when you go back up to the 3rd time to the 6th floor, someone will get on with you. Oh my gosh. Oh, I don't know. You're on the 7th floor. Let's go to the. Don't do it. Don't do it, JC. um, I know this is the worst. So when you go up to the 6th floor the last time, I believe a lady will get on with you, and you won't be able to see her face. And she will push a button and take you to the elevator to hell or something. She'll take you to another dimension. But you're not supposed to talk to her, or she'll take you with her or something like that. Ugh. Oh my gosh. I don't know. I don't know. You get off. Who knows? Who knows? Nobody knows. Nobody's been back from the challenge after they do it. That's the scary thing. Cool. Let me talk about some of my favorite Halloween movies or horror movies in general. Probably my number one horror movie of all time is, I'm gonna regret this all for later. I know I'm gonna go to bed and just like lights will be on and I'm gonna freak out. Um, my favorite scary movie of all time is probably The Burbs. I hope people know what that is. It's it's one of the greatest. I mean, granted, it's a comedy, but it is a horror. There's some scary things to that movie. Hey Matt, is this a robot? The one standing behind you on the table? This one right here? Yeah, that's the Iron Giant right there. The Burbs is so funny, but it is one of the it's like it's an entertaining movie that is just it's good. It plays into a lot of it does a good job of being funny and scary. But that one's another Corey Feldman movie. Yes. Good job, Sean. Quentin, have I ever seen the movie called The Cooties? Yes. That is a really good that was really good. With Elijah Wood. Yeah, I love that movie actually. That's one of the newer that was probably one of the newer like really good movies. I don't know if like a really good horror movie has been out in a long time. I think the last best one is probably um what is it? The Conjuring or is probably the scariest one for sure. The scariest horror movie that I've seen is The Conjuring. Oh, the You Might Be the Killer is a good one. I think that is on Netflix, or it was on Netflix. Just playing around with some shapes here to see. Just trying to maybe expand the design a little bit better. I'll accept that in a bit. Um, ooh, we did have an experience with um, so we used to go up as kids to this place in Wyoming called Star Valley, Wyoming. Oh, I want to see Us. I mean I loved um, Get Out. That was the movie that I showed my wife last year, right? But I still haven't seen Us. I want to because his last movie was fantastic, and that one looks so creepy. Ugh, ugh, it's so creepy. Anyways, so we were up. This is another ghost story. The show called You. I don't know if I've seen that. What's that hand behind Matt? Stop it. So, oh, what was I saying? Anyways, so we were up in this place. We did like these family vacations where we would go up to this place called Star Valley, Wyoming. And Star Valley, Wyoming is very small. A town that's a few thousand people. And we would play this game at night that was basically just like what is it called? Night tag, where you had one person who was it, and the rest had to go hide, and we had a little cabin that we would rent out. Um, that was right next to a golf course, the Star Valley Golf Course, and just trying to make design decisions and talk about scary stuff at the same time. It's working really well. Oh, so we're out there, and I'm probably at this age, probably around 10 to 12. It's one of those towns, yes. And so we're out there playing, and it's late. It's probably 11, 10 to 11 at night. But on the golf course in the middle of nowhere, that's like midnight anywhere. It's late. There's no one out there with us, and we've been playing for a while. And then all of a sudden, like as we're like hiding, because like only one person is hiding, and then when you're found, you grab that person's on your team and you start searching. So there's probably like three people who are found that are all searching. And I remember being in these bushes, just laying down and like being quiet and thinking I'm gonna be the best hider ever, which I was. No one found me, but I remember like all of a sudden everyone started running, and I get up and I'm like freaking out and I start running too, and we're running across this big golf course. And I remember looking back and seeing like a big thing kind of like walking toward us. UFOs like small towns because no one believe you. Yes. Good thing your wife's not watching. She'd probably sneak. Oh, she would. She would take advantage, and I'm not too certain that she won't do that anyways. Anyways, I remember seeing there was something walking up after us, and it was big. It was like a big, I don't know if it was a person or if it was like, it was almost, I mean, I want to say in my childhood head, I would say that it was like a Yeti like type thing, and it was just following us, and we all like, there's probably how many cousins? We have so many cousins. There's probably like 20 of us, 20 kids all running at one time, freaking out across this golf course as we're all running back up to the cabin. So, um, I don't, nobody knows what it was, but everyone in that group said they saw the same thing, that they saw some big, and it wasn't a little thing, it was like a big thing. It was a big person or beast. We just started calling it the beast. And then the next night we were like, as cousins do, we were like, "Oh, we're going to find this thing." And we went out searching for it, but obviously we were all scared and we didn't stay out for very long, but that was a scary that was a scary moment. Yeah, I probably we interrupted the late foot, the the late foot, the Bigfoot late night golf sesh. It always, you know, it's always going on. Ew, what are some more of my favorite scary movies? Um, so I married, so I married an axe murderer is a fantastic one. I just found out that like all of the young interns and contractors that I work with have never seen it, and it makes me feel. Nor have they not. Not only have they not seen it, but they haven't. They weren't even born when that movie was released, which made me feel really old. Um, Lightfoot was my father. The late Lightfoot. Ooh, Pet Cemetery was good, but Pet Cemetery is one of those movies. Okay, so I do have a beef. You haven't heard of So I Married an Axe Murderer, Bella? Oh my goodness. Look it up right now and rent it, buy it. It is one of the best movies, like horror movies ever made. Yeah, who hasn't seen that? Okay. So I Married an Axe Murderer is one of the most iconic films that you should watch. This is this is when Christina Applegate was Christina Applegate in that movie? Yes, this is it. Oh my gosh, it's so good. That's the one. Watch that. You'll thank me later. How old am I, Matt? If I don't mind, I am 34 years young, which is probably really old. Um, what's another good one? The A newer one, and this is that newer one, but like you may be the murderer was a good one. Oh, anyways, this is my pet peeves with with some like the new horror movies, and I know that like Pet Cemetery is like a remake of a Stephen King movie novel, which is good, great. Is movies like horror movies that end with little or no hope at the end of it. I kind of have issues with. Like there's a movie, and I can't remember. I'm trying to remember, like for the life of me, what this movie was because I remember like it ended and just thinking, oh my gosh, this is this is worse than dying for this person. So I can't remember what it was, but it had like um, that girl from Snow. What's her? something Snow. She's in Pitch Perfect. Anyways, so it's a serial killer movie. Like for some reason, someone's after her. Prom Night. I think it's called Prom Night. Oh, I can't watch that one, Bella. Like that one's too scary. I think I started that one and I couldn't do it. Whoa. Anyway, but everyone, so the movie goes like, you think all of this girl's friends die in the movie. Everyone she knows, her mom dies, her dad gets killed, her best friends die, all of them. Her boyfriend, who she had like finally learned to trust because she thought it was him that was the killer, but it wasn't. He dies. The officer who was supposed to like who she kind of had a trusting relationship, he dies. Everyone dies that she knows. Everyone that she dies. Brooke Snow. Brooke Snow? Let's see. No, that's not her. Who's it? Brittany Snow. Brittany Snow is the main actress in this one. Anyways, everyone that she knows dies. Um, and then at the very end, the one person left that's protecting her, which I think is another police officer, dies at the same time that she kills the 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 murderer or whatever. But the problem with it is that everyone that she knows is dead. She is traumatized because she has witnessed all of this stuff. Like there's no good there's no hope for this lady to have a normal life after this at all. And so I take issue with like, okay, you can't just end with like zero hope for everyone. I mean, unless the everyone dies, like no, even in like I think the Friday the 13th movies do this well as they at least end where there's okay, where there could be hope. There could be life after this travesty. And then like maybe there's not gonna be. But there's like a little bit of is it me the audio doesn't seem to sync? It's probably that. It's probably not completely synced. I don't know. My audio's been messed up for a little bit, so thanks for bearing with. Anyways, so those I have problems with movies like that just because there's no hope. And like Pet Cemetery was really good. I actually really liked Pet Cemetery, but again, it's one of those movies that ends where there's just no hope for anyone anymore. Like I'm not going to spoil it, but basically it's a very bleak, dark ending. Yeah, audio and video dissync. Very sad. Anyways, the big rig scene made me cry. The big rig scene. And scared me. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. It's a very well done movie. I really actually liked the story. It's just was so depressing. Yeah, in Pet Cemetery. The very end of that, oh my gosh. I remember just like thinking like, oh my gosh. There's a few movies like that just I mean they're fine movies. They just I think they missed the mark for me simply because you need to have something. You need to have even the slightest glimmer of hope. Like even something that I still have nightmares about, or like the Nightmare on Elm Street. That was always the hard one for me. But like even in those movies, at the very end, you still like, oh, maybe they got Freddy. Yes, they got him. And then you realize, oh no, they're back in the dream. A crude example. I am now not a horror movie, but the mist ending is one of the most depressing endings of all time. I think I honestly like that I don't know if it gets worse than that. Oops. That mist ending is pretty brutal. You should not watch. I mean, yeah, yeah, uh huh. Or was that the fog? Because there was two, and I believe the mist was the one with the Smallville actor, but it also. But there was another one called the fog. I can't remember who was in that, but I do remember the ending as they're driving out and they've got what is it, two bullets of three people. I'm gonna look up this link real quick. I want to make sure it's the one I'm thinking of too. Oh yeah. Oh, that's just devastating. That ending is devastating. I think my brother he claims he for him this is one of the scariest movies. Like that's one of the scariest movies of all time for him, just because of the ending. The Nun was a joke. I watched The Nun. Mainly like after the first Conjuring, nothing was good. They kept playing. The funny thing is like, because like this Conjuring 2, where they have the story of the girl in England having this getting possessed and like or a poltergeist or something, is actually really interesting. It's really interesting. It's pretty scary. I mean, the real story, even though like the real story has a lot of doubt to it because of they admitted to faking a lot of things. The family that they interviewed, but it still has some really scary points to it. And I feel like they try to add in like the Crooked Man and the Nun into it as like because I honestly I don't know why. It's the kind of the same thing like Annabelle um, didn't really have a point in the movie of The Conjuring in the first one. Like looking hindsight back at it, it doesn't really have a point in the movie other than it's like a scary story to start telling who the Lorraines are or who the Warrens are. And like the Nun, I don't think is ever really a thing. Ooh, I never watched Annabelle 2. Hereditary is. Ugh. I Hereditary is one of those movies that I started and had to turn off and finish watching in daylight because it was just some of the scenes are so visually jarring and disturbing that it's hard to keep watching. Ugh, Hereditary. I'm gonna get the right proportions. She's feeling really tall. I want her to feel tall because Morticia is a tall lass, but this is maybe just a bit too tall. Long and elegant is what the goal is. Let's see. More ghost stories. Oh, well, in our previous house, the small. Yeah, that's what I thought. I thought the fog was the one with the small pillow actor. Slender Man. Well, the Slender Man is pretty dumb in the beginning. The Slender Man, I don't think could ever top just the made up lore that the internet made for Slender Man. What was I saying? Anyways, in the previous house that we had a neighbor, and she was one of my favorite people of all times. Her name was Diane, or is Diane. She's still there. She's still great. But anyways, Diane was fun because she would talk to me about ghosts and stuff. Because she said that she has always been able to see ghosts. And I said, well, that's really cool. And it was cool because she's like, oh yeah, yeah, and I've got all these pictures of like places where I see ghosts. I'll take a picture, and normally there's like an orb or something in it, and so she'd show me all these pictures of stuff. I never saw Chubby Rain. I haven't seen the Curse of La Llorona either, but I know the lore of that quite a bit. Um, Anyways, what was I talking about? My neighbor Diane. She's awesome. Anyways, so Diane, she would tell me about she would see dead. She saw dead people. I'm like, okay, so you're basically um, the little kid from The Sixth Sense. She said, yeah, that's basically me. And some are scary, and most of them aren't. But it was something that I've had to get used to. I'm like, oh, cool. That's, and I always like talking with her about it because she said that she saw some people, there was people that lived in her house that she knew. And then I'm like, okay, well, is my house haunted? And she's like, oh, no. And I'm like, oh, thank goodness. But, anyways, later on, we had a neighbor who passed away, and she's like, the funny thing is he passed away, and like 2 days later she said that she saw him in the window. Oh gosh, that's the creepiest thing. Ugh. She saw him in the window, in his bedroom window, like days after he had passed. And now we have neighbors that live there. I know the people who live there. Oh, that was creepy. Many of my cousins say that she can see people too, but normally she doesn't say much about it. It's very personal. Yeah, I've met some of those people too. She says she's pretty used to it. I think that's weird. I mean, you think yeah, I think that's a terrifying thing. I really like listening to like podcasts about, the paranormal. And there is a really good one. There's a really good one called Astonishing Legends. Now the one critique that I have about it is that it's just too long. Like each episode is like 2 or 3 hours long, and they just need to like, okay, this is great and all, but time to just make them short. Anyways, it's a really good one. There's one called The Witch of something or other. Let's see. I've got to find this one because this is a good story. Oh, some of these are really scary. Okay, the oh, let's talk about this one first because this one's just really, and it's called the Bell Witch. Oh my gosh, I hate talking about this so much. Okay, the lore, yeah, lore is a good one. It's quick and it's short, and they're really well done. Um, I like Astonishing Legends mainly because they just talk about it as the history talks about it. They're not trying to convince it, or they're not trying to disprove it or prove it in any one way or another. They're just talking about, okay, well, these are the recorded stories that we have about this, and thus we are reporting it as we've learned about it. And so the history of the Bell Witch, which is like a 2 or 3 part episode. They really go into it, but it's like this crazy thing because they have all these documents of like this house that was haunted back in the 1800s, and they would have all these people come over, and this entity would talk to them, and they would have like they would hear the voice, and they would ask the Bell Witch to do things for them, like hey, we would like some grapes, and all of a sudden out of thin air they would say grapes would appear. And they had like crazy stories of like the Bell Witch could also transport herself. So the family had family members in England, and this was like in some it was like in Missouri or something, and they would have messages delivered from them to their family in England, and they would have like this voice come and talk to them in the family in England, and then it would relay the message. It was like a telephone basically. And the interesting thing is like if you bring in some of the other lore that I've studied or listened to, of like how paranormal stuff is really just like a crossover of time and space and dimensions, and maybe it wasn't a witch, but maybe like if you look at it with these kind of eyes, that maybe it was like someone from our dimension, um, that has our technology and can easily call or communicate with someone in England from America, that it starts to make sense. But anyways, they have so many of these crazy stories of like grapes appearing, or like um, things, candles being lit, or beds moving, or things like that. It's crazy stuff. Anyways, that's a really good one. Do they have to give something back? I I don't know. I don't think so. I hope not. Ugh, what a scary thought. What was I getting at? This other story is this really probably one of my favorite stories about like astonishing legends, is the story of the um, I'm gonna butcher the name, so let me. I guess I can't. It's called the Houska Castle. Houska Castle. I'm gonna write this in the comments so you guys can look this up, because this thing is actually very terrifying. Houska Castle. I think that's the right spelling. So I believe this castle is in Poland, and the creepy thing about this castle is that where are you? So the creepy thing about this castle is that most castles, by all castles, build their defenses to the outside, so like they're defending what is coming from the outside in. Yeah, the the uh the grumpy ooh meh. Anyways, the Houska Castle is interesting because all castles build their fortifications and their defenses to point to the outside. That they're building their castle to defend from the oncoming slaught of whatever, whoever, right? Well, this castle is built in a really weird way where all the defenses they have are pointed towards the middle of the castle. They have, guards around the front, they have dual locks and systems to guard from things to from in there's this middle part of the castle and you've been there? What? That's crazy. Anyways, so everything's pointing towards the inside of this castle. And in the middle of the castle, there is this well slash cave thing. That's crazy, Bella. Oh. And this well now has been sealed, it's been blown up, sealed, covered, and has like a church built over this well. But the plans are still there, and like there's still like an actual opening, I believe, to the well. Bro, no. You have been there? Ugh. That's crazy. And terrifying. Um Anyways, so this well or this whole castle is built to like defend whatever is supposedly coming out of this. And what the lore was, is the well was like a gateway to hell. That there was this the unworldly like entity that they were trying to keep in and not out. And so they had, these stories like the lore of all these crazy things that would come out or try to come out of this well, and the whoops and the stories of like, okay, so this is trying to keep this, and I think it was called like the Gateway to Hell. Actually, it had a nickname of like the Gateway to Hell. But they had these like crazy stories where they would try to send people inside the well, and all these people would die because they'd like lower them in, and then they'd hear screaming and crying and stuff, and so they try to bring these people. Actually, they would offer it to prisoners. Um, tell us about that. So they would offer prisoners that were on death row. They would say, "Okay, we will release you if you go into this well for us." And so the prisoners would say, "Yeah, of course. Well, we don't want to die in death row. We don't want to be executed. So yeah, of course, we'll do this." And then they would go in and they'd lower them down, and all of a sudden they'd hear screaming and yelling. And like one of the stories, and again, this is like the lore, that they would come up, like one of them came up and he had aged 70 years and was just like bones, which is like, what is it? The Raiders of the Lost Ark, or what is it? The Last Crusade type stuff. But it was just weird because like all the plans, the original plans, because they had like all these like drawn plans for this castle, were all built to protect the middle of this hole, this well. Anyways, I don't know what it means, but that was a good one. If you ever have like 7 hours to kill, listening to that podcast is a good fun time. Probably based on the Nun. Yeah, the Nun was horrible, and it had the kind of the same premise, I guess, right? Where there was like a hole. Have you ever heard about some holes where it has no ending? I can't remember if it's in Utah or Idaho. Yes, actually, that is in Utah. I believe it's one of the I don't know if it's the Timpanogos cave, but there is a cave, and I think that they've officially like boarded it up and closed it off because of some people dying in there. Or was it the Silly Putty Caves? Oh, the Silly Putty Caves. But yeah, there are some scary caves in Utah that I've heard about, and I think that's the ones that you're talking about, actually. Oh, what other good ones are there? Um, oh, oh man, there's some good ones. I recommend Lore. Lore is a good scary stuff. Well, I think we have officially creeped ourselves out tonight. It's gonna be some rough night of sleep for me. At least I feel confident that I don't try to hide my fear. I fully embrace it. I have a mouse that creeps me out at night. Sometimes it tries to creep into my bed. Ugh, that's horrible. Appreciate the spooks. Good. We have some hamsters, and they have like a squeaky wheel inside, but it's not like a squeaky squeaky wheel. It is like literally like it sounds like this. So when they start running in the middle of the night, and we can hear it from our bedroom, I freak out. Actually, um, when we went camping, and I scared my kids really good with the ghost story, with that girl with the green ribbon story. I was sleeping, we were sleeping, and it's hard to sleep in a trailer because like when one person moves, everyone feels it. And I'm struggling to try to fall asleep, and I'm cold, and and making sure that the heater's going so our kids don't freeze, and I'm already paranoid because of we're out in the middle of nowhere, and I swear I heard footsteps walking around our trailer, and then like our trailer started to shake a little bit, and it was just the worst. You're gonna have some crazy dreams tonight. I know. I don't know. That's a good quote. Why do we keep? Why do like every time I watch like some scary movie or something, I'm always like, that's it. I'm never doing that again. Why am I doing this to myself? Why? Why? And then like inevitably I end up doing it again. I know the audio and the video doesn't sync. I don't know what the problem is. It's probably many things. I'm gonna look into it, hopefully before the next time, because it's so fun. It is fun until like you're in it, and then it's no longer fun. When you're until like I'm actually scared. Oh, I should probably save this though. I haven't saved it a one time. I ain't afraid of no ghosts. I know. That's why like I need to remember when I need to like pull myself back out, watch Jason 3 or Friday the 13th 3. That is just dumb enough. No! so, sorry, guys. Last thing on last time. So sorry. Sorry. I'll never do that again. I just realized it had been quiet for a while, and so sorry. I know, but this is just gonna come back to haunt myself. Legit scars. So sorry. This has been fun tonight. I've had fun. I hope everyone else had a little bit of fun. And doesn't hate me for what I just did. But I know, like, honestly, I'm gonna finish this and try to go to bed. And I'm gonna, like, be terrified because of my own stories that I've told tonight. Hmm. That's true. So, I was all focused and chill. So sorry. You need to watch comedy or something. I know my go-tos are like, I'll go watch The Office or Parks and Rec after I've watched a scary movie or something. I'll probably do that. I'll probably just like sit in bed and watch Parks and Rec or Friends or Gilmore Girls. Actually, Gilmore Girls is one of my more go-tos because then I'm like, oh, just fast pop culture references, just simpler time. Yes, The Office. Will I be doing hair fiber mesh? I might with this just because it's simple enough. Not in this stream. I've got about 10 more minutes before I'm done for the night. Um, but mainly I'm just trying to figure out like shapes because I like. Let's see what I'm trying to say here. Is I like this. I like what this shape is saying. I want to kind of emphasize that with the face too. Whoops. I mean, I like parts of the face. Don't know if I'm completely sold on every part. I'm obviously going to make a comeback. This has been a creepy vibe tonight. I've liked it. I've liked my friends here that have joined us. Thanks for joining me on this spooky ZBrush stream. Oh, you guys have your. I've got a few more minutes, but I just wanted to keep, just say that I've enjoyed tonight. It's been fun. That's all. We've got 10 more scary minutes left, we'll say. I'm trying to think if there's another scary story that I know. I probably don't know anything. I mean, I do, but I don't know what I want to. I don't want to scare myself anymore tonight. Once the stream is over, watch your back. It's just a little dark there. Think about oh, don't do that. I know. No more. We're gonna end the night. We're gonna talk about happy things like rainbow unicorns. I hope everyone dresses up for Halloween. That's my hope. Is that I'm still, I'm 34, and I don't think I've dressed up for every Halloween since I was a kid. I'm one of, a handful of people at my work that dress up. And I'm okay with that. You don't have to dress up. But I just like, I like dressing up. You need a costume. Just wrap yourself in toilet paper. It's a classic. I'll be going as a rainbow unicorn this year. My son is really into rainbows, or not to rainbows. He's into unicorns, and so he wanted to be a unicorn. And I said, okay, I'll be a rainbow unicorn with you. So we're going to be rainbow unicorns together. I'm excited. We have a pumpkin carving night. We do a little pumpkin carving night every year. We're doing it this Friday. It's going to be fun. Oh, just blink. Don't say that. When I was a kid, I made a Freddy Krueger glove out of pencils and pen because I couldn't afford a real glove. That's almost scarier, though, like a handmade Freddy Krueger glove. Ugh. To this day, I think I had a Freddy Krueger nightmare just the other night, and it was the worst. It still scares me. Oh no. Don't say oh no. What does that mean? Don't say that. What's oh no? Oh yeah, the Freddy nightmare. I know, it's just not great. That's one of those just a horror. I think I was traumatized as a kid because for some reason I remember like my parents rented it and we watched it and I was little and I think it was it was on TV. Maybe they didn't rent it, but it was like on TV, and we were watching it. And I was there for some reason, and I'm young, like 7 or 8, and then my parents realized, oh, you know what? Matt should definitely not be here watching this with us. So they took me upstairs to not watch that. And then I remember they left. Hey, good night. Hey, Tom, how's it going? Um, oh, the bed scene. Oh. Anyways, I remember my parents took me upstairs, and then they said that they'd be right back, and they left to go downstairs or something. And the the power went off in our house, and I remember just freaking out upstairs by myself in the dark, and it was very scary. It was a very scary time for a little child like me. And ever since then, like I remember, like I wouldn't do haunted houses because I thought there would be someone dressed like Freddy in there, and that was just too much. And it's still very scary. Man, the trauma of that. Run, save yourself. Ah, good morrow, good morning. Hello, Chin. The best way to get over horror-based nightmares is work effects on the film set once you have been put through the red strain stained syrup, and people you get over being scared by horror effects pretty quickly. Um, that's true, but maybe your nightmares just evolve into being having stuff poured on you all the time. Just trying all sorts of things out. Why not? I don't like that. Backing it up. Well, I think I'm going to call that an evening. Thank you for being with me tonight. I had a lot of fun, and I'm now actually very scared myself. So I'm going to try to get some sleep, but I'm probably just going to watch some funny, happy movies that will make me forget about how I'm actually very scared about everything. But my pumpkins are also grateful. I hope you guys have a um, wonderful Halloween season and don't get too scared. But thanks for your comments tonight. This is a lot of fun. So you guys have a good one and happy sculpting. Happy sculpting, everyone.